About 20 years ago, I wrote a piece for live performers and interactive electronics called Surrounded by Mirrors. I'm going to perform an updated version of this piece online, but before I can do that, I need to update the Max programming. Welcome to episode 2 of my Max Dev blog, where I address the MIDI keyboard inputs. When I wrote this piece originally, it was written for MIDI Wind Controller, MIDI keyboard player, and interactive electronics. When I redid this in Oregon and just did the third movement, I took the wind player completely out of it because I just wanted to perform it solo on a piano. At the University of Oregon, they had a Yamaha disc clavier, which was an acoustic piano that had MIDI triggers and MIDI capabilities on all 88 of the keys. Because I don't have an 88 key keyboard at home and instead have two 25 key MIDI controllers, I need to modify the way that I deal with the performance of this with those two keyboards and create some patches around that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my controllers patch. This controllers patch deals with the Wind controller and the keyboard controller, both from a local control perspective, which means whether something that I play on the keyboard actually plays back and you can hear it, and also the data control, which is when I play something on the keyboard, Max is listening to it, but you're not necessarily hearing anything play back out of it. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take these patchers right here and I'm going to disable this patch cord here and just mute its effect, disable that patch cord. We're also going to disable this patch cord just in case something for some reason goes into this individual channel. So that's the Wind controller version of that patch. Let's take the key data control. Let's take a look at this. I think we're going to just modify this right now. We're going to take this key data control and we're going to call this chosen top key. And turn this send object into a top keyboard note. Since I'm going to actually use this patch, I'm going to take a second to align that stuff and make sure that we're doing okay here. This says X3 on it. That's because I used to have a keyboard that was an X3. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to give that the generic title of A because that's going to get redone through this device's display in the first place. This is grabbing all the note data, but then it's stripping out the velocity so that the only thing that goes through is the actual MIDI value itself. Let me also take a look at how the keyboard version of this is set up. Oh, now see, this is different. So the reason why that this is set up the way that it is because when I had a single 88 note keyboard, I wanted that to be able to split between a top half and a bottom half. And throughout the actual performance of the piece of music, where that split would happen between the top half and the bottom half was different. Sometimes I would need the middle C60 to be a part of the bottom half. Sometimes I would need that middle C to be a part of the top half. And that's because each half of the synthesizer was playing different voices and was also causing certain trigger things to happen that I wanted to isolate to the bottom half of the keyboard or to the top half of the keyboard. The drone patch as an example that I did in the introduction video of this series, that drone patch activates only when the bottom half of the keyboard gets played and not the top half. And this split ends up being the thing that controls that. Now here I have a natural split between both of these 25 key keyboards, so I don't need to have this split function in that sort of way. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, I'm just going to deactivate this patch cord, and I'm going to take this note out, disable that patch cord. So let's take a look at the Wind control patch here. This is more of what I need now for my independent 25 key keyboards. So I'm going to use this as my model. So we're going to turn this into top key data control. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and duplicate it. Duplicate, hi. There we go. And I'm going to create another one right now before I forget. We'll call this bottom key data control. Let's open that up, and we're going to take this and we're going to say chosen bottom key, and do this and say bottom keyboard note. Oh, you know, the other thing that I need to do for this too before I forget is I need to take, let's move this out of the way. I need to make sure that my channel, well, actually, I guess the channel for data is not really that important. We can have both of those channels be one and not have that be a big deal. I do want to make sure that this instrument is considered something different though. So we're going to call this instrument B. That's not actually necessary, but it's good practice just to make sure that we have an understanding that those are supposed to be different devices, because those will be different devices. Let's go back now to our local control and what ends up getting sent out. We're going to take this and say, we're going to say chosen top key, and we're going to change this to top key local. Which will turn that on. Let's align this and align that. Let's move this a little bit. We'll take this and say chosen top key output. I want to make sure that's lined up with this over on this side actually. Chosen top key. So we're just going to be chosen top key. Oh, but that's data. Well, no, that's right. Chosen top key is fine. And we're going to also change this and say that this is going to be chosen, or call this top key channel. And for this, we want the top key channel to definitely be different than the bottom key channel. Let's actually create an integer here and have that in between, just so that I have a display that shows what the top key channel is versus the bottom key. So let's take this, duplicate this patcher, and we'll take this and we'll have this be bottom key local control. This is going to be chosen bottom key. So right now, then I have this top key. We're going to put this on channel 2. And let's take this and we're going to put this on channel 3. And just so we can kind of see what's going on here, I'm just going to take, going to see the distinguishing notes here. And just make sure that I have the notes coming out the way that I need to. So my top key, LB 25K. Let's turn that gate on. My bottom key is my impulse. We'll turn this gate on. You can see this is my LPK right here. And then my novation, which is my bottom, is that right there. Sweet. Now the reason that I have this set up as 2 different channels is because if I want to be able to change the voice, let's just do a quick program out. So let's take program out A1 here, and we'll give this an integer. We're going to take that same thing over on this side. Why aren't you pasting? Oh, because you were not unlocked. Sweet. The important thing here is to set this up on the correct channel for the software synthesizer. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll just say that this channel here is on the software synthesizer for channel for the bottom half, like that. So then what ends up happening is if I were to, let's reset that number to 2 here and reset that number to 3 here, because that program out message does not have that. Then here, if I want to take this top half and I want to make it into some string instrument, like 45, I take this and I want to turn this into some sort of percussive instrument, which I think like glockenspiel is around 13. Well, that doesn't make sense. Let's do that opposite. We'll have the top be 13. We'll have the bottom be 45. Let's see what we got here. So now I've got a marimba on my top half. Now I've got a really bad MIDI violin on my bottom half. And now I have these to be able to play with. Then I can set a receive object to throw that number into wherever I want. I actually have this set up in a separate patch. I guess I can just leave this into the local control and just set up these variables right now. So let's take this and make this a little bit neater. Take this, move this up. Let's take this note out now because I don't need that. And we're going to give this a received object. Let's take this and call it receive top key patch. And that's going to be some number that I'll have to mess with to find the right patches that I want for each individual section. And then I'm just going to take that same thing and put it on the bottom half. So let's take this and align it. So now I've got the capability of changing the patch with a single message of bottom key patch with a number or top key patch with a number. Now, I do have things here that are supposed to deal with that through individual UI kind of objects as opposed to having to go inside of all these patches to be able to make any of these individual changes. So here I've got my device display that grabs the names of all the stuff that we have here that for output device, wind input device, and keyboard device. I'm going to unlock this to show the invisible things that are underneath it. What's happening here is it's grabbing available outputs, available inputs, and then it's taking this and sending it to the output synthesizer and the wind player and the keyboard player. I just need to take this and turn this into top key. Take this and turn this into bottom key. And that should then send the top keyboard device to the LPK25, the bottom one to the impulse. Now for keyboard note, this display right here, I want to change this and expand this out so I get the keyboard note from the bottom and also the top. So let's unlock this and see what's happening here. This is grabbing keyboard note from data, I believe, actually. So yeah, so if I want to duplicate that, I want to change this to our top keyboard note. Then we're going to duplicate this. Throw this, and actually it makes more sense for the bottom to be on the left hand side. So we'll say bottom keyboard note comes here. Oops. Like that. And there I have my bottom key and my top key. Now I'm not getting any sound, and the reason why I'm not getting sound I realize is because top key and bottom key for the synthesizer is not something that should be my input devices, but should instead be the software synthesizer, which is the output device. So this output device really is chosen output, and that so should the one for the bottom key local control. This should also change to just chosen output, because both of these things are routing to a single synthesizer, but just different channels on that synthesizer. So now if I take this, I turn this back into that synth. Cool, I got those sounds back. And now I have independent displays for my bottom keyboard and my top keyboard. Now the last thing I want to be able to do for this is to change this keyboard data control and local control to reflect that same thing. So here I've got my key status for data, which I'll double check this here. So actually what I need to do is I need to be able to create a top and a bottom data status and local status. We'll send this to top key status. And create a top key status. Like that. Let me find the bottom data control. Align these in the way that it needs to be. Let's go here. That's close enough for jazz right now. Well, not really, because that's really going to bother me. That's better, not perfect. Okay, I can make that a little bit cleaner later on my own. But here, let's double check this. So now I've got my keyboard top data control on versus off. And if I have what you can see then here, let's turn the local on versus the local off, is that if the keyboard top is on data only, then the data is still coming through, but you're not hearing anything. If I turn the local on, you'll start to hear it. If I turn the data off, then that stuff is not actually going to any patches. All I'm doing is just playing my keyboard locally. And the same thing is true for the bottom. If I have this bottom on, but the local is off, I'm getting the data through, but I'm not hearing anything. Turn that on. If I turn this data controller off, you see that the keyboard data is not actually going through anymore, but I'm still playing it. Turn the bottom data on. Turn the local control off. Now the data's going through, but you're not hearing anything. There you go. That's me modifying the stuff out of the Wind Controller to two keyboards, updating the displays, updating the way that the AI deals with that stuff, making it sort of clean. There's some stuff that needs to be dressed up here to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. But at least for right now, I have now functional top and bottom keyboard things. So the next thing that really needs to happen is I need to comb through the actual piece of music where I'm going to be performing. Let me scroll down here to the third movement area. I need to double check how I'm going to activate these individual patches, the programs that are involved in it, what notes I'm going to be using where. I'm also should probably actually, the other thing I need to do is to create something that can do octave displacement for these 25 keys so that I don't have to manually change the octave for certain parts of the piece where things need to be higher or lower than the 25 keys that are happening there. And then once I do that a little bit at a time, then the piece will really develop. So for the next episode, I'm going to take some of these patches, these performance patches that I have, and I'm going to double check how they interact with the keyboards now that I have it split up between a top half and a bottom half, and just make sure that they will still work the way that they need to. We'll explore one or two of the new patches, maybe three, depending on how long it takes to actually modify the stuff that I need. That's it for this episode. If you like what I'm doing here with this dev blog, or you like anything else that you might see on my channel, then please give this video or any of my other videos a like. Consider subscribing to my channel for a bunch of eclectic content that I decide to put out there. I've got a lot of personal passion projects. They're very varied. They have no real focus, but they are all me. I also ask that you consider supporting your freelance musicians, your freelance artists whose livelihood has been severely affected by the coronavirus pandemic, and find ways to support them, donate to them, go to their virtual concerts, do the things to help make sure that the art still stays alive and these people don't lose their entire careers. I have in the video description below some great online resources that show ways in which you can help. If you're interested in supporting my own work, then I ask that you contribute and donate to my contemporary music concert series, Niente Forte. The link for that is also in the video description. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. That is not in line with that. We're going to do some alignment things here, just to deal with my visual programming type A-ness. A-ness, not anus.